Big thank you to the EA Creator Network for allowing me to capture this early access work in progress footage. College Football 26 is finally here. EA added tons of new features that will dramatically impact how we play the game. So in this video, I'm breaking down the 4 things that completely change offense in College Football 26. So starting us off at number 1, the new QB special moves feature lets you juke out defenders behind the line of scrimmage in College Football 26. This is an awesome addition to the game that gives you way more control over your quarterback when you're scrambling around behind the line of scrimmage, and it lets you juke and even truck if you really want to make defenders miss when you're behind the line of scrimmage. And so to demonstrate this, I'm using Florida because DJ Lagway is a pretty fast and athletic quarterback, and this is purely just for demonstration purposes. I have the defense on random coverage. What I'm going to do is I'm going to snap this ball and sprint backwards and look for an opportunity to juke out these defenders. And what you can see right there is I was able to do a juke move behind the line of scrimmage. Before this year, you could not do that. This is completely new to the game, and it gives you way more capability of making defenders miss and extending your plays. And so all you have to do in order to do these QB jukes behind the line of scrimmage is to simply be holding the right trigger and then flick your right stick in the direction you want to juke it. So in this case, I'm holding the right trigger to sprint, and then I pressed or flicked the right stick to the left, juked that guy out, and then kept on running. You can flick your right stick to the left to juke left. You can flick your right stick to the right to juke right, or you can flick your right stick up in order to truck, even though with a quarterback, I usually wouldn't recommend that. Now, it is important to point out that there is a major implication with the introduction of these QB special moves, which again, you have to hold the sprint button, right trigger or R2, and point your right stick in order to do. That feature that had to get changed is the Playmaker feature. The Playmaker feature, in case you're not familiar, allows you to direct the closest receiver to you in any direction that you want after the snap. Last year, all you had to do was point the right stick and your receiver would automatically Playmaker. This year, you have to hold the left trigger or L2 and then point the right stick, and that is how you'll Playmaker. And so in this case, if I snap the ball, I'm going to hold the left trigger, point the right stick up, and if you saw my A receiver, he was the one that got Playmakered. He started running up as soon as I Playmakered. And so that was this receiver right here. And you see he's running, and you see that the circle appears below his feet. That's the moment that the Playmaker feature kind of started changing his route. And so you can see that the Playmaker takes effect, and now he moves his route up. In order to do that now, you have to be holding the left trigger and pointing your right stick. So it's going to take a little bit of getting used to, especially for those of us who were used to, in a panic, just like flicking the right stick up like a maniac trying to get a receiver to run upfield. But now you have to hold the left trigger because we have these QB avoidance moves as well. But I think it is a super cool feature that they added this year, giving us the ability to use these QB special moves. And my gut tells me that on Instagram or TikTok or wherever you watch clips of college football, you're going to see some highlight reel clips of people making defenders miss behind the line of scrimmage and then launching it deep for a huge one-play touchdown. Now, moving on to number 2, the new UnTarget Defender blocking adjustment will shut down cheese blitzes in College Football 26. This is an incredible new addition to blocking adjustments, and it's going to completely reshape the defensive meta in online games. Now, you may be wondering, what the heck is UnTarget Defender and why does it matter to me? And I'm going to show you that right now. So starting off, I'm going to set up what some people would call a cheese blitz in the nickel double mug formation. I'm going to blitz all linebackers, slant my D-line inside, hover with my user a few yards over the center, and man my user up on the running back. Now, the offense has the running back block. So they have 6 blockers, and I have 6 rushers. So in theory, each blocker could pick up 1 rusher. However, when we snap this ball, what you'll see is that my edge rusher on the right side comes in completely free to bring the quarterback down for an instant sack. And if we go ahead and set this up again, what you will see is that if we look at the blocking adjustments of the offense, if we hold down LB or L1, you can see that the right side edge rusher is not being targeted. So many meta blitzes over the years in both Madden for a very long time and college football last year relied on the user hovering near the line of scrimmage, and that would distract the O-line. It would basically take an O-lineman and force him to have to account for that user in case that user blitzed. And as a result, someone else would come in free. What you can do now is you can choose a defender to untarget, and your blockers will completely ignore them. And so, once again, to pull up your block adjustments, you're going to hold down LB or L1. And if you look at the bottom row of your pass protection menu, if you press Y or triangle, it will let you untarget defender. So we're going to go ahead and press Y or triangle, and it's going to pull up this icon right here. And you can use your left stick and move it around. And when you get it on the person you want, so in this case, I've identified the user, you'll press A on Xbox or X on PlayStation, and now you have that player selected. And you can see that he is no longer being accounted for in the blocking assignments. And so if we go ahead and snap this ball once again, if I get on the correct controllers, go ahead and snap this ball, you see at this time, everybody gets picked up. Now it's still going to be fast pressure because people are going to block shed and everything, but no one is coming in free. In this case, we have completely ignored the user as a potential blitzer, and as a result, everything goes according to plan. But all that being said, most people are not going to want to send their own user on a blitz assignment at the quarterback. Most people are trying to hover and then drop back. And if that's the case, then simply untargeting that defender by selecting him right there and removing him from the blocking assignments is going to eliminate a lot of the effectiveness of the different cheese blitzes that people tend to run year in and year out. And so while we may have found something that is worth investigating further with having your user on a blitz assignment, in general, the UnTarget Defender mechanic is a really awesome addition to College Football 26. Now, moving on to number 3, the new Reach For It stick move lets you fight for that final crucial yard in College Football 26. This is an awesome new feature that EA added this year, and it lets you weigh the risk versus reward in having your players stick the ball out and fight for those extra yards, but also risk fumbling in the process. And so I'm going to run through some reps right here, and I'm going to try to use the Reach For It stick on every single play, try and show you guys what some of the different animations are that you might get, but also show you that it is risky, and especially if you do this with a running quarterback, you can and will fumble a lot. Let's go ahead and run some reps, and if we run to the side right here, we can see that as we're starting to get tackled, that's a perfect example. We'll watch the replay in just a second. What I was doing is I was pointing and holding the right stick straight up. I should have mentioned that before, but that's how you do the Reach For It stick mechanic, is as you're getting tackled, you point and hold your right stick straight up. So I'm running outside, and then as I'm getting tackled, I am now holding the right stick straight up. What that is causing my quarterback to do is he is now sticking the ball out, trying to get every possible extra yard. But what you can see happens is when that extra defender comes in, just a light tap of the ball, all of a sudden, that ball is out, and now it is a fumble. That is the risk versus reward that you have to decide for yourself on any given play, whether it's worth going for it. And right here, we can go ahead and do it again. And this time, we held on to the ball. Of course, we didn't get that many yards, but I'm not worried about that. I just want to show you guys what these different animations look like. So once again, I'm holding the right stick, and now our quarterback is extending out as far as he can. And fortunately, no defender came in to hit that ball out. But that's how it works. And there's other animations we can get too. I know we've gotten the same animation twice in a row, but like this is another one right there before the second tackle animation came in. We can go ahead and see that if we hadn't had this one canceled, you can see that this time he's gonna try to fight through the tackle and then extend out wide. And then we get caught into a different tackle animation, so he didn't get to finish it. There are some other really cool animations that maybe we'll see. There's another one right there, where they kind of will like spin and stick the ball out. And so right here, you can see that we're getting tackled, but I'm holding the right stick forward. We're going to spin. At the last second, he's going to try and stick that ball out. I don't think that knee is down yet, and so he's going to try and stick it out. And so, of course, like on these plays, I'm just kind of running towards contact to try and show you guys the different animations. And there it was again, and he put the ball on the ground. But of course, in an actual game, you would want to do this. Ideally for me, I think I'm only going to do it on 4th down and 4th and goal, because the risk of fumbling for me is just too high. But that being said, if you're in a 4th down situation or a 4th and goal situation where you're not quite going to get it, it is really cool to have the option to be like, come on, try to extend, try to get that extra yard. And I know that's something that's been frustrating in the past, is it's felt like the players have absolutely no awareness of where the first down marker is, and they have no fight when they get near that marker. And finally, in this year, you can actually do that. You can actually tell your players to fight for that extra yard, and it's really, really cool. Now, right there, I mean, again, you got to be really careful. As you can see, he didn't even get the good animation, and he still fumbled anyway. And so there's always going to be a big fumble risk, especially when you are a quarterback. And that's probably my favorite animation right there, where they kind of like try to stay upright and then fall forward. There's a lot of good animations. I think they did a really good job implementing this, but this one's probably my favorite. They stay upright, they fall forward, and then they get that entire body length extended out ahead of them, and they reach for whatever marker you're going for. And so that is the new reach for it stick. Like I said, I think it's a really cool mechanic. It's obviously high risk and high reward. When you do it with running backs and tight ends, they'll of course hold on to it a lot more and fumble a lot less. If you do it with a quarterback, it is going to be extremely risky. And so just be careful with the reach for it stick, but it is a super cool mechanic, and I'm really glad it's in the game in College Football 26. And finally, at number 4, hot routes have been completely overhauled in College Football 26. Every position on the field has brand new hot route options, and these are going to completely change the route combos that we can build and how we move the ball up and down the field. And so to start off, let's look at our slot receiver hot routes menu. And not everything has changed. The left and middle panels are exactly the same as last year. The changes are going to be in the right panel and also the bottom bar below the 3 panels. And so last year in our right panel, these options were zig, deep cross, short cross, and wheel. This year, 3 of the 4 are the same. Zig, deep cross, and short cross are the same. But now instead of wheel, we have return route, which is down on the D-pad. And so what that looks like is a return route. If you don't know, it's also an inverted zig, and it's where your receiver is going to initially run outside and then do a hard cut back across the middle. Now, return routes usually are really good man-beating routes. These hot-routed return routes are not amazing at beating man coverage, but they're still really nice routes, and even against zone coverage, I like them for just picking up a few yards. Right there, we have a nice little 5-yard gain. And so return routes are just really nice to have in your route combos, even though, like I said, these hot-routed versions in my testing so far haven't been the best at beating man coverage. Now, our other 2 new options are in the bottom bar. And so last year in that bottom bar, we had the options for flat route and hitch. This year, we have slot fade on the left trigger or L2, and then choice route on the right trigger or R2. And so slot fade is going to look like this, and slot fades are pretty good situationally. Now, this year with how cover 2 plays, they're not as good. And so this year, the deep half zones play much closer to the sidelines than they did in previous years. And so in years past, I'd say, oh, a slot fade, that's great at getting outside of a deep half. Well, with the new deep half logic, what you can see is that the deep half is actually going to play a lot closer and be able to contest that slot fade. And so slot fades maybe aren't as good as they used to be, but situationally, it's still nice to have a slot fade as an option. The other route is a choice route. And let me go ahead and streak everyone else out. And so if you press the right trigger or R2 for choice route, that is going to be your choice route. It's just an option route. And he is going to run his route either as a hitch or as an out route, depending on the leverage of the defender in front of him. If we go ahead and snap this ball, in this case, he just runs it as a hitch, and we have a 1-yard gain. Personally, I've never been a big fan of these option routes because in theory, they should always run it a certain way, but in practice, sometimes the receivers can be inconsistent in how they run their routes based on the leverage. And so in general, I tend to avoid option routes or choice routes because I want to know exactly where my player is going to run. But if you want to run a choice route, you have that option. And so those are our 3 new hot routes on the slot receivers that we have. We have return routes, slot fades, and choice routes. So next, let's talk about our outside receiver hot routes. And so if we go ahead and just put our slot on a streak, and let's look at our right side outside receiver, we can see that on the hot routes menu for outside receivers, the right panel has 4 brand new hot routes compared to last year. So last year, the options were 888, bang 8, deep cross, and deep dig. This year, our hot route options are post sit, deep over, sluggo, and return. And so let's go through each of those. So a post sit is kind of exactly what it sounds like. Your receiver is going to start as if he's running a post, then he's going to sit down and just stop in the middle of the field. Now, if you don't build around this, it's not that good of a route. But if you have something like say a Texas route for your running back over the middle, something to distract the user, like let's pretend that this linebacker is the user and he's going to run with the Texas route. In that case, the post sit can be pretty good because it'll vacate the middle of the field. The user's distracted by another route, and you can hit your post sit for some really nice yards. But in general, I don't think I love post sit routes. Of course, you could use them if you want. For the most part, I don't see myself using them too much. Now, the next route is going to be the deep over, which is going to be this super deep crosser, like about as deep as a crosser can possibly be. And if you've played college football before, you know that you probably don't have enough time to make this throw. Now, I'm just going to spy out the entire D line just so we can watch the route run. But you know that for the most part, you're probably not going to have enough time for this thing to cross the field. But if you're in a situation where you have that much time, then having that super deep crosser can potentially be really valuable. Now, the third hot route is going to be the sluggo route, which is basically a double move. And a couple years ago in Madden, these sluggo routes were really good man beaters. This year, they're okay. Like if your opponent is in, so let's put the defense in like shaded down cover one. These routes can beat shaded down cover one from what I've seen. Although, well, right there, he obliterated the shade down cover one. So that's actually much better than what I've seen in my other testing. But this time I'll go ahead and shade up on the man coverage this time, and we'll kind of do some live testing. If we put him on the sluggo route once again, we see that against shaded up man coverage. This time he's completely bagged, and that's, I guess we caught it, but you don't want to make those contested throws. And so the sluggo route very situationally could be pretty good if you're going against some shaded down man coverage. But overall, it's another one of those routes that personally, I don't see myself using all that often. Now, the final route is the return route, just like we saw before. And once again, I love return routes just because I think they end up with really good spacing. And I don't know, there's just something about return routes against zone coverage. Like the zone defenders, they just kind of drop back and let the return routes get underneath. And I just really like putting return routes on the field. Now, personally, I like them from a slot receiver more than from an outside receiver. But, and that was just an accidental snap. But if you want, you can put return routes on your outside receiver. And now let's talk about our tight end hot routes, where you have a bunch of new options as well. And so if we pull up the tight end hot route menu and we look at the right panel and the bottom bar, last year, our options were trail, deep cross, wheel, hook, and flat. This year, our options are wheel, deep cross, zig, return, and stick nod. And so starting off, let's talk about wheel. And we had wheel last year as well, but this year's wheel is just a whole lot better. This wheel route has a hard flat component to it initially before it wheels up the sideline. This is just like if you're familiar in Madden with the play double post. This is the same tight end wheel route, and it's really, really good. And so what I love about this is that if your opponent's outside cornerback is playing off, you can just throw this as a tight end flat route. You can just snap this ball and just throw it out to the flat, and you can pick up some easy yards on the outside. But not only that, you also have a late window throw as well, to where if your opponent was in something like cover 3 sky, and you just had a streak on the outside, and we'll go ahead and streak everyone out and then get our tight end on a wheel route. In this case, the streak is going to pull that outside third zone deep with him. And once your wheel route gets upfield, and he kind of got hung up by the hard flat briefly, but then there's going to be a ton of space to hit him along the sideline. And so I really love these tight end hot route wheel routes. And I think that these are going to be used a lot this year. It's a really, really good route. And I expect to see this used a ton in your online games. Now, the next route in the hot routes menu is the same as last year. That is the deep cross. It runs in exactly the same spot. The third option on that right panel is the zig route. And kind of like with the hot route return routes, these routes are nice to have for spacing. I don't love them against man coverage. I really just like them for like little quick throws against zone coverage. But we can run a rep against man coverage as well if you want. But just in general, it's just like I said with the return routes, these hot routed zigs and returns, they just don't run as well. They don't separate as well against man coverage. And so here we have the defense in some cover 1, and we'll see how the zig route does. And you see what I mean? It's like it's not really getting a whole lot of separation. And it is a tight end for what it's worth. But in general, you're going to want to use these hot route zigs more so for spacing than necessarily as man beaters. Now, our fourth option on the right panel, it's going to be the return route, and we've looked at these before. Just like with the Zig, not a great man beater, but nice for some spacing. Go ahead and snap this ball and just wait for him to get away from that linebacker. You can hit the return route over the middle. It's just really nice to have based on what other routes you have on the field. Not going to be a great man beater though. Now, the final tight end hot route we have to talk about is going to be the stick nod route, which is going to be the left trigger or L2. And in some years, these are incredible man beating routes. In other years, they are pretty underwhelming man beating routes. And so I put the defense in a cover 0 with some guys spied out as well so we can take a look. And as you can see, this year, once again, it's kind of just an underwhelming man beating route. Situationally, when would we use this? If the defense is in a cover 2, and it's kind of similar to what we talked about with the post sit route. Like if we have a way to distract the user, like let's go ahead and just man him up on the running back or something, then the post stick route, or sorry, the stick nod route, is a nice way to kind of split the middle of the field, but it is dependent on getting the user out of the way because otherwise it's just not going to be that great. But if you can get the user out of the way, then the stick nod route is a great way to attack the deep middle of the field. And so those are the new hot routes we have at our disposal. I think the biggest ones will be return routes from the slot receiver purely for spacing purposes, and the tight end wheel route. I think the tight end wheel route is going to be an absolute game changer. And so obviously you could use all of these hot routes. They all have a place and a purpose. And if you scheme around them, you can absolutely fit any one of them into a route combo. But the slot return route and the tight end wheel route, I think, are going to be the most popular new hot routes in college football 26. So those are 4 things that completely change offense in college football 26. If you guys enjoyed this video, please do us a huge favor by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel so that we know you want to see more videos just like this one. But thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next video.